From the Middle is proud to be a founding member of Odd Pods Media. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 170 of From the Middle. We are three middle class guys living in the middle of chapters of one of our something middle stuff. And we are glad to be back together chatting with one another. This week's episode, we're talking about service managers or managers in the service industry and whether or not they generally suck. Bathroom sneezes. Do you say bless you? Are you supposed to talk at all in a bathroom? We talk about that one with our pants down. Pete and Sebastian, they've been copying our show. And then after the break, we find out that Kory is not only a sneakerhead, but he is now a seasoned sneakerhead. And then there is a lot of streaming to catch up on. This is a good long episode that we put together. I think an enjoyable listen. Not bad for a bunch of beard oil salesmen. And there you go. Enjoy.
Oh, for the love. Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole. I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it? You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved. From the middle after dark over here.
I don't know about you guys, but one of my favorite things is interacting with our loyal listeners. And there's a lot of ways for people to do that. They can tag us at From the Mid Pod. They can comment on one of our social media posts. They can call and leave a voicemail with an idea for a topic they'd like for us to discuss or a question for our segment Answers from the Middle. They can text that same number if they want. There's just, they email us at fromthemiddle@protonmail.com. There's so many ways for people to reach out and get a hold of us. And it's one of our favorite things. And this is not a question for Answers from the Middle. This is just commentary. And I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on it. So we got a voicemail from a middler. Here we go.
Hey guys, I'm beginning to see a correlation between entry-level jobs like company owners and slumlords. And I was wanting to hear your thoughts on it. So I keep hearing, I'm self-employed, I keep hearing that like you can't find good people, you can't find good people, but they advertise on the sign what they pay. So like pay virtually nothing. And just the other day, like I saw a middle manager at a donut shop, mind you, like a small donut shop that has several places, just condescending tone and aggressive, kind of in the face of this employee. And the employee, just, this is why you got too many sprinkles. This is why it doesn't work. I told you 5 times. It's kind of an awful experience. And then I finally get to the stage where I get my donut and the young man comes around and he's got Down syndrome. He's a special needs employee. And and like nobody wants to work there. Are you kidding me? For what amount of money? And it's like on the sign, it's like, we'll pay this much. And then I went to Taco Bell the following day, and I said, hey, I just like a water, and I can see it. And he said, oh, I'm sorry, we're out of drinks. I said, you're out of drinks? And he said, yeah, we're out of drinks. I said, well, tell me what's really going on there. And he said, well, the machine's down. Pepsi machine is down because Labor Day. They aren't going to be in Depicted till tomorrow. And I said, oh, so it's not doing soda. And he's like, yeah, it's not doing pop, Pepsi. I said, okay, if you go to the lemonade or something like, did you have anything non-carbonated? He's like, yeah. I go, there's a little tap there. If you could pull down the water, just see if that works for me. I'm super parched. So he gets it for me. Then I help him kind of change back. These places are slumlords. That's it. Bye.
Yeah, 2 examples of what's going on in the service industry, a topic that we've talked about a lot. I just wanted to get you guys' take on that voicemail.
I mean, I don't know. Is this what we can't comment on is this the norm, right? Dylan worked at a Taco Bell. What was your experience?
Well, I made $5.15 an hour. So do the math on how happy I was. No, year is relevant. It was fine. I mean, it was fine. I worked in food service. I've worked in retail. I've worked in all those things. Like, there's a lot of people that feel like they should be at a better place in life, but then they work at those places. And so they're not very happy with where they are.
Mhm.
And there are some people that are just doing it because it's a temporary thing. And like for me, I always chose to be where I was. And so sometimes I was at places longer. But you can definitely encounter like some pretty miserable people. And then I think on top of that, a pretty hot topic right now is how much they're paying. Right. So like that seems to be a big deal. None of them used to pay well, but nobody had leverage when I was young and needed a job. I had no leverage. There were, plenty of applicants, and they could pay as little or as much as they wanted. And so now the job seekers have leverage. And so these places are forced to have nobody or pay a lot more than they were paying. And I understand payroll is a big expense. I don't know. The analogy to a slumlord, though, is the comparison to a slumlord is interesting. I happened to see a sign today that somebody took outside of a restaurant. I don't know where, to be fair. And obviously anything on the internet could be made up, but this wouldn't be the craziest thing I've ever seen. It was advertising for servers wanted at some restaurant. And it said, basically, you start out at base pay. Your first 2 months, you don't earn tips. And then every month you're there, a dollar amount, you can only earn up to a certain dollar amount of tips until you're there for 6 months. And then you can earn full tips, which it's not. And then at the bottom, it says, if you have questions about the wages and tips, please see other servers, as management has no decision-making over the tip system, which is like a deferral to not be doing something illegal, basically. Because like in a restaurant, who would set the tip policy if not the owner and the manager? Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, even if it's probably made up, because again, it's the internet, but it's still the spirit of that kind of manager or owner is certainly out there. I'm always curious, like what the people that are really struggling to find people, like what kind of pay and benefits do you have, and how late to the game are you in offering those if they are good? Mm-hmm. Like, did you start doing that last week, or were you offering $20 an hour, for part-time workers 3 years ago? So it's a great question. There's so many variables and factors. But some places seem to be staffed and have enough people, and some places don't. So I would think it has to come down to pay and benefits. Like, it's got to be that simple, right? I mean, bad managers can drive good people away from good pay and good benefits. So that's still a thing. You can have really good benefits and have just a terrible boss that nobody wants to work for. But like, nobody's going to take bad money with a bad boss. You're going to move on. So I don't know. It's a great question. There's not enough time in an episode of our podcast to discuss.
Yeah, we can't explore all the contributing factors to what seems to be lacking customer service industry. But I had a story happen this past week. I discovered my new favorite wing place in spite of some terrible customer service that I received. So I have a friend out of town who's been coming to Columbus every couple of weeks from some appointments. And the first time he came down, he said, "Hey, is there a wing stop near you?" And I thought he said Wing Street, but he in fact said Wing Stop. And I said, "Yeah, there's one right across the street, because there is a Wing Street Pizza Hut right across the street from me." And he's like, "Oh, great." So on his way down, I realized he meant Wing Stop, but said we should go to Quaker Steak and Lube because their wings are a lot better than what I heard as Wing Street. So we go to Quaker Steak and Lube. He appeases me. The wings were fine. We had a great experience. But then I realized the error of my ways and said, "Oh, you meant Wing Stop this whole time." I'm buying next time you come down and we'll go to Wingstop. So I picked the location and it happens to be a location with no indoor seating. There's just a 2-person bench and it's online order only or pickup only. And so he's like, oh, okay. I said, I've messed this up from the beginning. First, I thought you meant Wing Street. Then I pick a place that only has a 2-person bench. So
now we're gonna have some kind of weird romantic car date.
Yeah, exactly. How do we do this as bros? So anyway, we walk in, bing, bing, and I'm sitting there for a while, for like 5 minutes, waiting on him to get there. And I'm just sitting on the bench looking at my phone and like looking at the menu up on the wall. He walks in and he joins me and we sit there for a while. And the girl comes out to the register and goes, y'all got a pickup order or what? That's the first thing she says.
Wonderful.
And I go, no, we were just going to place an order, which you should be able to do, but it seemed as though their registers were down. So she's like, we're mobile order only right now. And we're like, oh, okay, no problem. We'll just sit here if that's okay. We'll place orders. She's like, all right, and turns around and goes back to the back. While we're placing our orders, 2 other guys come up to the door and they stop at the door, even though it's unlocked and can be opened, and they make eye contact with me and gesture for me to come over to the door. And the guys look at me and they're reading the sign. They're reading a big sign on the door that's facing out to the parking lot. And they look at me and say, are they making you wear a mask? And I said, no, because I didn't have a mask on. I'm like, no, they didn't say anything to us. You can come on in. So mind you, they had been reading signs on the front door.
Mm-hmm.
So they walk in. And the girl says the same thing. Do you guys have a pickup order? And they go, no. She's like, well, we're on online order right now. And I know you know that because I saw you reading the sign. And they're like, actually, we were just reading about your mask policy. We didn't know anything about, you being online order right now. She's like, well, it's on the sign right there. And they're like, okay, bye. And they turn around and leave. Anyway, the wings were great. The fries were amazing. And this is my new favorite wing spot in spite of the service. And I just thought to myself, how much longer? This could just be a one-off situation for this young lady. Maybe she's just having a really bad day. But I got the impression that she sort of has this attitude and sass pretty regularly. And even then, people are so desperate for employees that show up eventually that I'm pretty sure she's able to keep her job despite what has to be a regular amount of customer complaints.
Sure.
But if the food's good enough, but to say we're online only and you know that because I saw you reading the sign, I'm like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I struggle with that because I've been in a position like that's clearly over the top, but I've been in a position where I'm talking about something, pointing at it, and like, this is the thing. And right beside it is the sign with the price. And people are staring at the thing and they're like, how much is it? And all I can do is like gesture slightly differently to like show them where I'm like, I almost can't, the amount of movement from my hand is almost imperceptible because it was so close to, and my hand wasn't covering it. It was so close. It was right there, but that's clearly over the top. And frankly, most restaurants have like 17 different marketing campaign signs out on a front window. So I could totally see, well, it's like, here's our new special. Here's a special sign we left up from 14 days ago. Here's a COVID sign. Here's the Visa, MasterCard, Apple Pay sticker. Here's the PepsiCo sign. Here's the, like, there's so many things up there.
Didn't you read
just
the
noise.
sign?
People just ignore it.
Here's the concealed carry regulation.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the one sign that we looked at doesn't mean squat anymore. So even if I did read any of the other signs, your mask policy is not what's on the door. So
luckily, this Wingstop has a patio area in the parking lot with about 5 or 6 tables with umbrellas and chairs. And so my friend and I, we sat out there. It was nice. But because we were outside with our drinks, I was like, I wonder if I can get refills. Go back into the store. So I always make it like a personal mission to try to like make these people smile, or like, just, he's like, there's no way you're going to get free refills from that lady. And I was like, I'm going to try. I'm just going to try to turn on the charm. I needed paper towels anyway. So I'm like, worst case, I'll just be like, it's cool. I just needed some napkins anyway. So I got the free refills. So that was the win that I needed.
Did you walk in? You're like, man, those guys, they were losers, huh? I bet you get that all the time.
So
anyway, beautiful.
It was basically minus the prequel. I was like, oh man, well, it's pretty hot out there today. So anyway, hey, I was just coming in. I needed some napkins, but I don't know, is there any way I could get some? Are we allowed to get like free refills? And she's like, it's fine. And just walked in the back.
I'll do it, but not with a smile on my face.
Meanwhile, so you don't look bad, you're just like throwing your mobile pay card up at the thing, try to pay for it to pretend like you got a refill.
Yeah. That's the move. That's the move.
Tap it on there really quick. Question, follow up to all the service thing. Let's say that you could find help. Let's say that the amount of money, that you're not trying to like break down the exact number of customers. If you open a restaurant right now, here's the question. If you opened a restaurant right now, like a fast food type place like that, would you even want a lobby at this point other than for people to walk in, order, and leave? Like, money aside, like somebody could do the math and say like, well, but like with how long people are in there and then trash the lobby, and then somebody's got to sit there and ring people up. Somebody's got to clean the lobby. You got to stock it with condiments. That's why there's so many of these places have like slowly opened their lobby. I'm thinking, I don't even know that I would want to do that. If you open Kory's Burger Shop or Kendall's Burger Shop, would you even want a lobby at this point, or literally just a drive-through?
I was going to say it depends on the type of place, but you just said burger shop, like coffee shop. Yeah. Like places like that. Yeah. But it depends on the place.
McDonald's competitor. You're opening a McDonald's competitor. You're opening a Tim Hortons, not a Starbucks, or like a Tim Hortons competitor. Like grab your donuts and your egg biscuit sandwich and go.
Yeah, it's a good point.
You're asking us to essentially like take the economics out of it and just ask if we would want to have a lobby.
With everything going on, would you even want to deal with a lobby if you wouldn't have to anymore? You used to have a lobby. Like you couldn't. Everywhere had a lobby. Other than a pizza shop that was carry out only, that was rare. You can totally get away with opening a restaurant now that's literally just like carry out food delivery apps and not even deal with the lobby. Would you still want a lobby at a restaurant if it was yours?
I would actually. Because again, like the question is basically like, do you just want one?
Yeah.
Right? It's not like you're not worried about whether or not it brings you more business.
Yeah. There's no QuickBooks attached to this question.
Because I don't know if every McDonald's that I have had the pleasure of being inside of during early mid morning hours, there is always a group of old guys who seemingly like the six of them get together every morning. And I would feel bad for them if they didn't have their McDonald's to go to.
That's the first thing my mind went to, Kendall, is like the community aspect of it and that little bit of atmosphere.
Yeah. And then I think about the fact that like I have seen other kid birthday parties. They're not the ones that we grew up with where like they have a section in the back that they rope off and it's only for that birthday party to show up, and they have games and if they bring out a cake. They don't do that anymore, I don't think. Maybe they do. But I do see like parents come in with like 8-10-year-olds, and like I've seen that before. Still recently, I've been that parent recently, and those kind of things. I want an availability for that.
All right,
Everyone else I don't care about.
Move the little mongrels along. Get your food and go. I don't want that. I've talked to Bree about that. If I'm opening a restaurant now, nope. Drive through, walk in and order, get out. Go. No
That's
lingering,
cool.
no loitering,
That's
no
cool.
no messy lobby. You get it from a delivery app or you can use my drive through. Go.
You're sounding a lot like you should open up a Wingstop. I think you've got the.
We're online only, okay? Or mobile app only.
That's the heartless robotic answer that we expected from you. Speaking of bad service, children's birthday parties, and pop, it is crazy how much Pete and Sebastian have been talking about topics that we talk about on our show. An episode or two.
Those pirates.
An episode or two after we talk about it. Just saying. So they just talked about, we had a question from in our answers from the middle segment. They just talked about whether or not it's classy to drink a pop in the store before you pay for it. So like basically grab one on your way in when you walk backwards through the checkout lane in those little mini fridges. Then they talked about whether or not you should drop your young children off at a birthday party or stay, and the implications of somebody else having to parent your kids, which Kendall brought up the other day. Then Sebastian took his kids to Monster Jam for the first time, which I took Case to a while back and is coming back to Columbus. Man. His story about that was hilarious. So mind you, he's in LA and he goes to Monster Jam, which is typically a pretty, they call it white trash event. He said,
it's a white trash event here. Yeah.
He said the first thing that he observed when he parked his car and got out to take his family to Monster Jam was a guy get out of a truck, and on this guy's shirt it said, "I polish my AR with liberal tears." And that's the first thing he saw on his way into Monster Jam. So that was funny. And then they just brought up poopery. And Dylan is a big proponent of poopery, tweeted about it, and got a response from the company itself. It's not something we've talked about on the podcast, though.
No, we have. I've talked about it on the podcast.
Okay.
I'm convinced that somebody there at the show, not probably even Pete or Sebastian, but some key grip or something is listening to our show and trying to suggest ideas. I know a key grip is for a movie. I couldn't think of a minor role at a podcast.
Best boy.
I'm convinced that that's a thing. So
hair and makeup.
Yeah. Everybody needs to go to Pete and Sebastian's socials, and on all of those topics that Kory just mentioned, like let's start a hashtag that's like From the Middle did it first.
I love this idea. So that's
good.
Great. I had the social firepower to started.
I sent you guys the video of their response about the pop thing, and I was surprised to hear that Sebastian, who's usually the first to bash sort of like unclassy white trash things, has regularly grabbed a soda when going into a store and thinks it's perfectly fine as long as you finish it by the time you get to the register. Which,
yeah, I thought that was a weird qualification.
Yeah.
He didn't explain it either.
Yeah,
which bugged me because I'm like, man, you need to flesh that one out, because I might be with you, but I don't know where your head's at. But yeah, no, that he said it's the rule. It's got to be an empty container. You can't give him a half drunk sloshing around container and have him scan that real quick and give it back to you. Scan it and throw it in the trash. That's what you need.
See,
I don't get that.
I think when I heard that, his response, I was surprised. And then I realized I'm viewing it through the lens of now Sebastian, like the highest paid comic currently in the US who lives in LA and has a mansion, not a Chicago kid who like grew up in a rough Italian neighborhood in an era where you could like walk in with your parents' credit card and pay for things. And I think if even that, it was probably cash. Like, you walk into the local corner shop, the Italian market corner shop, and you like throw a quarter up on the counter and go grab a soda and walk. I think that opinion is from much further in his past than the last. As I was thinking about it, I'm like, That's just a different era thing. It doesn't jive with who you feel like he is now.
Sure. That's a good point.
But I think it probably jives with who he was as a kid.
Maybe. Do you think he's old enough that like sodas were a quarter? I don't think he's that much older.
I mean, how expensive was Fanta? He's what, 50? How expensive was Fanta 35 years ago?
I don't know. I'd have to check my database.
Yeah, get on.
So since they're stealing from us, I want to steal from them and ask you guys a question that they got asked from one of their listeners. It's a 2-part question, but they're related.
Yeah.
If someone sneezes in a public bathroom and you're both in individual stalls, should you say God bless you? So that's the first part. And related, what about if someone coughs or seems to be struggling in some way and you hear someone else say to them, "You all right in there?" Like, how do you feel about somebody taking upon themselves to check on someone else who is like coughing or like making a lot of rustling noises? How concerned about your neighbors should you be in a bathroom stall? Is basically the gist.
I really want to be I want to be polite. I want to do the polite thing, but I think people go to the bathroom for privacy. So even I feel like if there's a situation where you could not throw out a God bless you, that's an acceptable one. They're in there for privacy. You know, it's like nobody wants to be doing the Austin Powers poop on the toilet and then somebody, "Are you okay in there?" You know, like nobody wants to hear that while they're in the toilet because that's uncomfortable. You're there. You already know it's a thing that you are sensitive about. And so I think that's the one time you can get away with not doing it and it's not rude.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would err on the side of not saying anything to answer the first question. The second one, how much struggling is Austin Powers doing in the stall? Like if it's kind of a, you know, and you just, or it's a long cough, couple coughs, probably excessive coughing goes on for 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Yeah. I think you all right, man? You know, it's just as casual as you can sound. You just you don't even say it loud. It's almost like you're floating it over the stall, just very casually. You all right, man? You're just shooting it up there. You're okay if he bats down the layup. You're trying to get it out. So
Dylan, going back to the first part though, if you sneeze and somebody blesses you, are you weirded out by that? Like 3 stalls down in a movie theater, you're the only ones in there, you sneeze and somebody goes, "Bless you."
It feels like the little kid in Jurassic Park to the Brachiosaurus who like sneezes on his sister, like, "God bless you." And it feels a little weird at that distance and in a private setting. I'm gonna say I'm a little uncomfortable with it.
Okay. So I am somebody who makes it a point to say "bless you" in public to strangers, because it's evangelism. That's a joke, by the way. It's a no. I think it's just generally a kind thing. I think it spreads love and kindness, and I think there's a genuine warmth to extending that to a stranger, and I think that people feel that warmth, that humanity. That said, I can tell you that I know that I have never said "bless you" in a bathroom stall to another person, even though I'm sure the opportunity has arisen, and I think that that's just because, like, we all know that that's weird. That's why this is a question. I think there's something that when you're not wearing pants, there's a physical vulnerability there that makes its way into your subconscious, and now you're emotionally vulnerable as well. And I think that pants, whether or not you have them on, is what causes that situation. Now, if the person on the other side of the stall has the same kind of weird sense of humor that you have, then I think, and you know that for sure, then you go for it. And I think that it takes a certain amount of comfortability with yourself to go ahead and say bless you in a men's restroom with your pants down. And so if that were ever, if I sneezed in a bathroom and that ever happened to me, instead of being weirded out, I think that I would rise to the occasion and meet the humorous situation by just trying to extend the conversation. So I sneeze, I say bless you. I'm like, thank you. So how you doing over there? Just give them that.
Right.
See what happens, right? But man, so that's my general take on it. I haven't done it. I probably won't. But if it happened to me, I would make a joke out of it. Because I think that the person who said it can handle it. And pants are the vulnerability bridge.
What percentage? We're going to make up numbers.
Yeah.
What percentage of people willing to use public bathrooms are already in escalated situations, do you think?
Uh-huh.
Like, do you think 90% of guys are comfortable casually using a public bathroom for number two? Or do you think it's like there's a lot more anxiety ridden, like this is the last resort, I've got to use a public restroom? Because public bathroom anxiety is certainly a thing for some people.
Sure.
I just don't know what percentage.
Then you take their pants off.
Well, I'm also thinking it would be pretty easy for me to tune out anything going on if I was having a crampy, sweaty experience. All right. If I was like already anxiety ridden because I'm in the bathroom and I don't want to be there, I just want to be at my own house where it's cool and I feel comfortable. That's like a whole other layer of not being able to pay attention or focus, or I don't know. I think that's a consideration. I'd love to know how many people have public anxiety about using the restroom.
Our listeners have to have thoughts on this. I'm really interested to hear from others, and I want to take Kendall's pants line. I mean, we're all married guys, right? So I'm wondering, like, in a intimate moment with your spouse, if there's a sneeze, do you in the middle of coitus, do you say bless you? Like, it's just, you don't have to answer. It's just a thought. Anyway, I thought that was really funny. Yeah.
A fun little thing. There's a music festival that I used to go to every year, and the shower situation on the grounds, it's a kind of place you camp there for like 2 weeks, right? And everybody's sweaty and smelly and stinky, and there is one shower room for each gender. And as you would imagine, a bunch of guys in their 20s, and some older, some younger, sharing a big open shower stall situation it's very quiet in there because nobody wants to talk in those situations. They just want to pretend that no one else is there to the best of their ability. But in that scenario, with those kinds of people who are at a music festival, all it takes is one person to start frivolity and everyone else will join in. And so what a couple of my friends and I did was we went to the showers, and all it takes is one person with a plan and a couple friends to do it. Next thing you know, everybody in the shower is doing it who have seen the movie Dumb and Dumber. But you sing the Dumber and Dumber version of Mockingbird. You just yell mock, and then you hear like 30 guys in a shower. Yeah, and now everybody is singing together, and it's a beautiful thing.
That's a good point. So I haven't shared my thoughts yet. I don't like even having a conversation with a friend in, say, a movie theater bathroom if no one else is in there, because it feels like someone could walk in any moment and we're mid conversation and that third person doesn't know that we're friends. So I'll be like, what do you think of the movie so far? Oh man, it's really good. But somehow, like, if it's a sporting event and there's 40 guys sharing one big trough, conversation's already flying, it seems less weird to talk in that setting than it does to just one other person. It's especially weird if I'm at the urinal and my friend is in a stall and then he wants to talk. I don't even want to talk then with my friend. So the whole bless you thing, or like, y'all right in there? It's like, well, what are you going to do if I'm not? That's my question. If I'm not all right, what's the procedure?
Lower my shoulder and
are your pants on, or
something about like having yourself in your hands and talking with your friend when you're across a stall wall just feels weird to me. And I'm pretty secure in my masculinity. Anyway, this feels like a good time to take a break. I have to use the restroom, and we'll hear some words from some of our friends in Odd Pods Media. Oh.
Hey, this is Russ.
This is Kyle.
This is Michelle.
From the Infectious Groove Podcast. Join us every Monday for the most fun you can have with a music podcast. The Infectious Groove Podcast uses a positive and fun approach as we take time every week to share our jammy jams, then dig into a thought-provoking topic discussing all decades and genres of music. You can find the Infectious Groove Podcast on all major podcast platforms, or you can head to infectiousgroovepodcast.com to find us there and subscribe. We might have a controversial opinion here or there, but we always have fun with it.
Oh, I'm sure I'll say something dumb.
Subscribe to the Infectious Groove Podcast, part of the Odd Pods Media Network.
Yeah, and that's when I said there's no such thing as too late. That's why they invented death. So it was weird night.
True.
Anyways.
In other news, one of our more famous stories on this podcast is way back in episode 85. Where I accidentally purchased some Air Jordans that are intended for people with special needs. Then I learned about the proper way to secure real Jordans, the Nike Sneakers app. It's very hard to get. There's a whole algorithm. You have to hit a lottery, and then you get the opportunity to buy them at regular retail price before they hit the secondary market. I have now mastered the app. I just wanted to circle back and let you guys know I have now mastered the app. I've made some purchases through it. The algorithm seems to be working in my favor. One of my latest purchases was I've been asked and honored to be asked to be a groomsman in one of my friends' weddings. And I convinced the groom that he and all the groomsmen should wear matching Air Jordans. And so that's how I convinced my wife that I needed to make my last purchase. Anyway, it seems to be recognizing me as a regular buyer now. And so the Jordan 3s, which are probably the second most famous era of Jordans, we're going to release a fire red edition that were a throwback to the original Jordan 3s. And because I've been making so many purchases through the sneakers app, I got exclusive access to the 3s a week before they came out while supplies lasted. And I had already purchased like 4 or 5 pairs since this sneakerhead thing all started. So I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to justify this purchase to my wife. But I did text my other sneakerhead buddies and say, hey, for some reason, I got exclusive access to these 3s. Does anybody want a pair? And my cousin was like, yes, please. 10.5. Just don't tell my mom. And then another buddy was like, I need to know how you got exclusive access. That's crazy. So it's all working in my favor. So if anybody wants a pair of hyped sneakers, just let me know. I just felt like it was worth circling back and telling that story. It's been fun. So I got some 3s showing up in the mail for my cousin. Pretty excited about it.
That's cool. That's cool.
I feel like I'm not cool enough for any shoes on there. So I would love to benefit from your algorithm, but I just don't think it's for me.
If you want to do it, if you wanted to do it, you could do it, Dylan.
I mean, I can literally wear anything if you're
No,
talking about that. Whether it
I'm
looks
saying
good
you
or
can
not, I'm
pull
saying
it.
I
You
don't
can
think
pull it off.
I don't think. Plus, I wouldn't understand the whole like, are you even supposed to wear them? And if so, how does that work?
Yeah.
I don't.
Do what you want.
You can actually
There-
wear these like.
Yeah, they're most guys getting that level of shoe are going to wear them. There are some who will never wear them. Most are going to wear them. Sometimes they're going to match it with an outfit and they're going to clean them when they're done and put them in their closet.
Yep. You just, as long as you clean
And
them when
then-
you're done, stuff a sock
Yeah.
in the toe so that they stay nice, like just like you do with shoe trees and like dress shoes. You're just shoving something in there so the leather stays nice and flattened, and you're good to go. Sorry, Kendall, I didn't mean to cut you off. I also wanted to share that. I also wanted to share that story because we got a really nice message from a listener, Keegan, who let us know that there's a sneaker freaks thing hitting Columbus at the Ohio State Fair. It might already be over, but it's something that I started following him on Instagram. This sneaker freaks thing, pretty sweet. And this is like a big event that is already over. Happened 2 days ago. But anyway, follow them for future events. That's Sneaker Freaks Co. on Instagram, and it looks like they go to the expo center, the fairgrounds, and they have like hundreds and hundreds of people getting super rare sneakers. So thanks for Keegan for sending that to our Instagram inbox. Appreciate it.
That's awesome. I wish I had exciting news other than we can probably talk at length about there's so many, I feel like so many new shows on right now and movies coming out. I feel like we haven't done one of those updates in a while. So I feel like we've got to at least catch up on some of what we're streaming. And if anyone is listening, if you've got shows that you're watching that you think we should be watching, certainly let us know, shows or movies. I know one thing that's not on my list that might be eventually is the new Game of Thrones spinoff House of Dragon that I think people are enjoying so far, but that is not yet on my watch list. I've got a lot. Should I just rattle off some things? This is all amidst college football, by the way.
Yeah, there is so much that has come out very recently. Just
okay.
List.
I'll rattle it off. You pick it what you want. And by the way, again, amidst college football, Vikings just beat Packers last night. So like all kinds of other fun stuff going on anyways, in the sporting world that we could talk about.
Bengals Steelers, crazy finish in the Bengals Steelers game, by the way. Caught the end of that.
That was emotional.
Woo.
For everybody.
Highs and lows. Go ahead, Dylan. Rattle them off.
Yeah. So here's some things. Feel free to pick. I finally finished Miss Marvel. I'm caught up on She-Hulk. I started barely Lord of the Rings. I forget the full title of that. I'm caught up on Welcome to Wrexham. We're watching through Orville. We just watched Top Gun Maverick and Thor Love and Thunder. Andor is coming out soon. And Disney just announced a whole boatload of shows coming later this year into next year, on top of all the Marvel stuff that's going to keep coming out anyways. So anything you want to pick at, go for it.
Well, you forgot Only Murders. So we have to mention that. We
just finished. Yeah.
We watched Top Gun Maverick at your house. So I want to talk about that for a second, but I'm dying to know your thoughts on She-Hulk, because all I'm seeing in my algorithm is the meme of her doing the booty dance, and Tony Stark died for this. And then the comments are rolling in like, what? People having fun and enjoying life? That's exactly what Tony would have died for. But the commentary is more about the quality of Marvel stuff, from like the big epic MCU finish to these shows that some deem quite silly and less serious. So I'd love to know your thoughts.
I'm glad you asked. Let me keep this as short as possible as to not take up the remainder of the episode. I feel like, I don't like the expression, fans want to have their cake and eat it too. fans get tired of the hero origin movie repeated over and over and over with the one hit wonder villain. And then when different things come along and it's not exactly what they want, then they get upset about it. And so if I were describing, which by the way, this whole bit or this scene that this is from was literally the bonus post-credit scene 10-second thing at the end of an episode. It wasn't even in the core part of the episode. Fans say that they want something that feels different. And then when they get it, they don't know what to do with it. And then some of them are upset about it. And I have best friends that I agree with on all kinds of Marvel stuff that hate She-Hulk as a show. This is literally a sitcom legal episode, like legal. She's a lawyer. This is basically a Marvel sitcom that's like a client of the week that she's helping as a superhero lawyer. It's silly. There's been other characters show up in the show from other parts of the MCU. Miss Marvel was a much lighter, felt a lot more like Spider-Man, a bit like the first Spider-Man, much lighter. First Spider-Man movie was about him being in high school. That's this Miss Marvel. She's a young character. She's just getting her powers. The CGI is the CGI. I mean, it's clearly not a film budget. It's a series budget. I thought it was fine. And so I just, people like Loki, that was really different, but still kind of dark and heavy. WandaVision was very different early on and kind of morphed into something more serious at the end. So I think Marvel's just really trying hard to give fans different types of shows. And some fans just don't like it. And there also is every time that something centers around a female hero, frankly, the kind of sexist part of the internet shows up. And so that's just a thing. Like, it's not like they don't like any female characters, but just like for whatever reason, Brie Larson got totally throttled as Captain Marvel. And then you've got like She-Hulk and you've got others. So it's fine. They're all fine. It's like the worst Pixar movie is still good. I've said it before. She-Hulk has been good so far. Miss Marvel was good. They're not groundbreaking in the sense that they're visually, they're not the new Lord of the Rings show from a visual standpoint. They're not trying to reinvent anything crazy. They're just bringing to life different comic stories. And some comics are much heavier and darker, and some comics are much lighter and sillier. Deadpool is going to feel entirely different as a comic than Batman. It just is what it is. So like, I don't think fans are taking that into account, that like comics can feel very different even as you read them. And that's what's happening with the Marvel shows.
I think that answer perfectly encapsulates what we try to be when we start talking about pop culture stuff. That was a very centrist answer. You honored the extremes and said that your personal take on it is somewhere in the middle, that you enjoy it. It's fine. It's entertaining. It's not great. It's not groundbreaking and life-changing. It's not as bad as people are making it out to be. It's the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. We always say we don't want to be the loudest voices in pop culture review tend to be the most extreme ends of the spectrum. And so I really appreciate that feedback. I haven't watched it yet. I have little to no interest in watching it just based on the trailers. But great.
I think if you like, even just for the complaint's sake, you could probably watch half of an episode or an episode, and you'll just instantly tell the feel of it is very different than like Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You'll notice it instantly. It does feel more like a sitcom. She breaks the fourth wall like Deadpool and talks directly to you as an audience. That in and of itself already makes it feel really different.
Yeah.
And so, watch 10 or 15 minutes of an episode. Probably not the first one because Mark Ruffalo is Hulk in the first episode. So it kind of bridges the traditional Hulk experience into this new show, and then the new show sort of takes over as like a lighter sitcom-esque kind of feel. So it's fun. Yeah, it's fine. If you're there for every bit of Marvel and Star Wars content like I am, I'm gonna keep watching every bit of it. Some of it's awesome, some of it's average. It's fine. I'm still gonna watch it all.
That's good. I thought I was going to be there when I went through and like I watched all of the films leading up to Endgame and then watched Endgame and after watching WandaVision, right? And so then I'm like, man, as long as I just I watched a lot of content. I'm just going to keep up with it. And I did for a while. And then I got through I think I'm still like 2/3 of the way through Doctor Strange. And haven't gone back to it. Just other things have caught my interest, and what I've heard has been mixed reviews with some of the newer Marvel stuff that's coming out, and so I'm not interested like I was interested, but I've had that feeling before, and I came back around. So we'll see in another decade. Maybe I'll watch She-Hulk.
I think there's so much of it that when there was only 2 movies a year, it was a big event, and you kind of did it just to see what was next. And now there's so much happening in the universe, you really can just pick and choose what you want to watch. Because, like, frankly, I'm never really into things with vampires. It's highly unlikely I'm going to watch Blade. I'll probably just read the synopsis of Blade when it comes out and get a sense of what were the ties to the MCU, and then just move on. I'm never really intrigued by vampires as a creature, villain, whatever. So
Morbius is on Netflix now. Are you going to watch that?
Orbin time. Yeah. No, I'm not gonna. I'm just not into. It's just not my thing. Like, certain kinds of creature movies just aren't my speed.
I haven't even finished Moon Knight for the same reason. That sort of it never really drew me in, and the sort of like mummy Egyptian. I don't know. It's just.
But guess what? We're gonna get Fantastic Four movies and X-Men movies, and those probably will interest you. You're gonna get another Spider-Man movie. You'll want to see that. There's gonna be Avengers, Kang Dynasty, and Avengers Secret Wars. So those will be the big ensemble films that'll probably be more fun for people to watch that don't want every whatever. But like, yeah, I'm here for like most of the content at this point. There's Captain America 4 is going to have Anthony Mackie as Captain America.
Are you going to check this one out?
If that was going to come out, I would.
Wongers.
Wong has been in several episodes of She-Hulk, which has been totally fun. And one example of that, which is not really a spoiler, but technically it's a spoiler. So if you're going to watch She-Hulk, he opens a portal and this drunk party girl pops into his, like, wherever his lair is. And she has the intestines of something in her hand. And somebody had sent her to a place. She's drunk, so she's not freaked out by the thing in her hand. And she's like, my name's Madison with a Y, but the Y is not where you'd expect it. And so it's just, and then at the end of the episode, she's sitting on the couch with Wong and they're watching like some ABC drama or something together because
that's funny.
They have things. So like, there's bits and pieces like that just make them so fun to watch. If Wong was a show, I would totally watch it. But I'm trying to watch everything. So here we are.
Well, on the other end of the production value spectrum, I have watched all of the available episodes of Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. And I can tell you that I think they do a terrific job of making it feel as weighty as the trilogies and the major films. Just the way, the pace that they're talking, you know how it is. I mean, those fantasy films, like Arwen especially, like they have a way of talking. Is it Arwen? No, Galadriel.
Yeah.
It's more serious. It's more romantic, not actually romantic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it feels like that. The sets, the landscape shots, these big sweeping, a lot of world building happening in the first couple episodes, a lot of new characters to meet from a lot of different races. They're using the language of the elves and the dwarves with subtitles in some parts to make it just tonally feels very much the same as the rest of the Lord of the Rings films. And Sherry and I are both hooked. We're like, wherever this show's going, we're down. It just the props, the costumes, everything just feels really, really true to the established Lord of the Rings sort of world. And so we've really been enjoying that. And then the only other thing we're watching, and I think I already mentioned it, but it's 5 Days at Memorial. It was based on a book of the same title, based on what happened in one specific hospital during the Hurricane Katrina, and some really tough decisions that staff had to make at a specific hospital when they lost power. Some of the floors started flooding. People were in a lot of pain, and they just wanted to make some people comfortable. And it's pretty weighty, but to know that these events actually occurred, it's on Apple TV Plus, and we've been really enjoying that as well. So two very different things, but that's what we're watching.
Yeah, I'll respond to the Lord of the Rings thing. It's interesting because if Peter Jackson was making this show, it would have already earned the trust of fans to just give it the benefit of the doubt until the end of the season or series. Amazon hasn't really earned that street cred. I mean, they're starting to show us with the money they're putting into visual effects and props, and that takes a lot of time and effort and whatever. But I'm just so desperate to, like, quote, live in that world again, because that period where all the Lord of the Rings were coming out, and finally you have this, frankly, about as nerdy as it gets fantasy series that, like, pop culturally pretty much everyone was watching, was just so much fun. And then it was validated by winning so many Academy Awards, whether you care about that or not. But, like, that's not a thing that genre of movie gets to do. And it did it. And so I'm just so excited to live in the world again. I'm willing to just kind of allow Amazon to have Peter Jackson street cred and just kind of go along with it for wherever it takes me.
Well, keep your bar right there, and you will be pleasantly surprised, and I think blown away. Because if you just want to go back to that world and Middle Earth and a different age, right? Because it's all essentially a prequel to what we're familiar with. I think you're really going to enjoy it.
Yeah, just continue to give great visual effects, bring some of the music themes back, not the literal exact, melodies, but, like, bring some of the themes back and the sweeping soundtracks and the props and the whatever, and it will engage people. And for anyone not into that, you'll have House of Dragon to watch, which will be another high fantasy kind of show. That's very different from the more family friendly, Middle Earth type of show. And you can just engage the Game of Thrones universe again. So I'll probably end up watching both, but not worried about House of Dragon right now. Definitely got to watch Lord of the Rings.
I think my favorite part so far, and then Kendall, we'll go to you, because I know you've been watching C, and I'm really curious to hear what you think about my man crush in that show. But I think my favorite thing so far is to see the race of elves at, like, the height of their civilization, as well as the dwarves at the height. I mean, because we saw the ruins of Moria, right? Is it Moria?
Well, the Mines of Moria.
The Mines of Moria. Like, we saw the ruins of that, but we never really saw what their civilization looked like when it was at its apex. And you get to see both here. And that's really, really interesting in the world building that they're doing, and, like, to see what they were like when they were flourishing with these beautiful cities, respective to each race. It's really cool to see that. And it adds a lot. And I feel like it's like other side content for other franchises. We've talked about this with Star Wars before. I feel like already in 2 or 3 episodes, it's adding weight to what we're already familiar with. It's making that feel more important. It's making what we're already familiar with seem more weighty and more important, because we're getting this look at a different age that all led up to what we know.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Good. Well, yeah. So speaking of those types of worlds, that feel that you get from, there's a similarity in feel, I think, between like the Lord of the Rings worlds and the Game of Thrones world, fantasy world. C is very much, if people aren't familiar, we've talked about it before, but C is very much kind of a fantasy kind of feel thing. However, it takes place in the future, and basically, man, something has happened where everybody has gone blind, and most people were killed by the apocalyptic event that made everybody who is alive now blind. And so the earth is sparsely populated, but the people who do exist have gone way back into extreme tribalism, fending for themselves, living off the land, kind of, because the industry is essentially useless to them now. And we're on the third season, which just started back up, just a few episodes in, and I've really loved the first two seasons of C, and now in season 3 they've entered into this what I think and hope is it's a frustrating moment in the plot that usually means, if written well, takes you to something even better than what you've been getting. So I mean, it's a lot of the story, like a lot of these stories, is perpetuated by this love story, in this case between a husband and a wife, and things are happening to where he has to save her, loses her, she loses her kids, like the whole family thing. And so you have that whole thing, and for 2 seasons it was these people that loved each other, and they were fighting through all kinds of adversity, and now we've reached a moment where something has attacked the very relationships. And so for me, like, when you get into those moments, it's like I just got done pulling through for you guys, and now you can hook that away.
Yeah.
And those moments in movies, like, often they're the moments in the movie where it's like, why didn't you just tell her the truth right then, instead of just let her lie to you about what happened? And you didn't, like, you could have admitted to it, but in a way that told her the truth of whatever, but you left out the important part of the story just so that you frustrate me. Like, that's where I am right now in the story, is I'm frustrated.
But those moments need to happen, right? Because I think there's a moment in the sequels, in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, where you think for a second that Chewbacca dies. And somebody was reviewing it saying, like, as much as I love Chewie, I kind of wanted that to happen to remind myself that you can still lose beloved character. Like, it would have actually been, as frustrating as it would have been and as sad as it would have been, it would have kind of added a lot of weight and drama to the trilogy had we actually lost Chewie there.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's in that spot for me. I suspect that it's going to continue to be good, because I feel like C has been so under the radar.
Yeah.
And it's on Apple TV Plus, and I got turned on to it by my barber, Ray the barber, and it has not disappointed me so far. But they need to keep this story going. And Apple TV Plus, if you cancel it now, I'm going to be so pissed off. And
what about
so there's that Halo? Yeah. So now I'm on the Paramount wagon. I'm off the HBO wagon, and now I've hitched myself to the Paramount wagon, which means that I watched Halo, which I thought was good in its own right. For somebody who spent, like, his epic gaming days on Halo, that was my game. And I loved the campaign in Halo so much, that story, that I'm like, sweet, now I get to see the movie, and that's not what it is. And so that kind of, I'm watching it and I'm trying to think to myself, was it that long ago that I'm not remembering how this all worked? And it's like, no, it's a completely different. It's not, if there is a canon, which is the video game campaign, this is not part of it. It's a completely different timeline. So it's, the same Master Chief, but it's not the same story.
So here's the question people are asking. Is a subscription to Apple TV Plus worth C, or is a subscription to Paramount Plus worth watching Halo?
Oh, that's a good question. For C, I would say yes. For Halo, it depends. I feel like I have my bias toward it. I still enjoyed it and was disappointed because it wasn't what I was thinking it was going to be. And that's a little bit of a different disappointment. It's not, I'm not disappointed because, I guess in a way I am. I don't know. Because like they didn't write it the way I would write it. I'm disappointed because like I thought I was getting A, but I got B. But I still liked it. So I don't know. I feel like I can't answer that one for Halo. But also on Paramount, I've decided to catch up on Star Trek stuff. And so I, at one point in time years ago, was caught up with, well, I've watched the original series all the way through, all the movies. Star Trek Discovery, the series, I had not yet seen. And so that's where I am right now. I'm on just started season 2 of Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, see, I've watched everything before CBS started streaming Star Trek. So I've not watched Discovery. I've not no STD, no Picard.
Good to know.
No Below Decks, the animated or whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm going to
Lower
skip
Decks.
those.
Lower Decks. Yeah, although I really want to watch Lower Deck. Orville is kind of the poor man's Star Trek. If you don't want to pay for Paramount Plus, you can watch Orville, and it's almost exactly like Star Trek. So you'll
Where's
have
Orville? How do you get Orville?
Orville is on
Hulu.
Oh, so you do still have to pay.
Yeah,
Right.
it's just cheaper than Paramount Plus.
Okay,
Plus,
gotcha.
a lot of people have Hulu from the bundle with ESPN and Disney Plus.
Right.
So, like, you just get it
Right.
there. So yeah, let me know. I'd love to chat about Discovery and Picard and all that stuff once you're done watching.
Here's a deep cut for you. The current episode that I'm in, guess who is in temporary command of the USS Discovery?
I mean, that could be literally
It
like
could be a lot of people. A former captain.
it's not Picard.
No.
Is it Janeway?
No, it's Pike.
Oh, okay.
Captain Pike.
I don't know the timeline of.
I know, it's fun.
Discovery.
It's fun. I said that my wife was a Trekkie growing up, and so like I fed that to her to see if she would catch on, and she didn't know either. I felt proud of myself when really the reality is I recognized the actor, and I was like, but I didn't remember exactly who he was, and so then I had to go back, and then I learned things about him. He was in like the film, the young James T. Kirk films going up through the academy. Captain Pike was the guy who was sort of his mentor. Captain Pike was also he preceded the decade before James Kirk on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
He was the captain of the Enterprise. And so he was actually on the original pilot for the original series, Captain Pike, which never aired.
Yep.
And they refer back to him, but in that original series, he was never actually a captain other than the pilot episode.
I was gonna say Pike is sort of the generic captain that they bring in. He's like a special captain, but he's a generic captain in a weird way.
Yeah.
He's not Picard. He's not Janeway. He's not Shatner. He's not.
Well, they give you the sense that he used to be a big deal.
Right. Yeah.
But they never show you or explain to you why you should care about him.
He's Kirk before Kirk, but he feels some generic somehow.
Yeah.
And I have to ask because change real quick. Kory, you said we watched Top Gun Maverick.
Do it.
Did you want to elaborate?
Oh, yeah. Before we get to that, though, just shout out to our friend Kelly, who is the owner of Bedlam Bricks, a Lego resale shop here in Central Ohio. We'll tag them. But if you're a Trek fan, before we move off of that, check out their unofficial Trek podcast. So that's Kelly Casto and Bob Turner, and they break down individual episodes of Star Trek. And Star Trek themes and news and all kinds of stuff. So if you're into the Trek stuff, but yes, watching, I was so excited. Sherry and I had seen Maverick in theaters. We had been waiting to see it again. I knew you and Bree hadn't seen it. And so I said, please don't watch it until we can come over. I'll buy it. Let's just stream it at your house on your big TV with your fancy Bose surround sound system. And we'll let our kids play upstairs and watch something else. And so you obliged. We had pizza from Pizza Nerds. Shout out to them. The Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Whoa, their Donkey Kong pizza was spectacular. It's like a hamburger and fries on a pizza. It's not, but it tastes like that. It's so good. But yeah, I was excited to watch it. I tried really hard to not watch you watching it. But yeah, what were your thoughts? It was your first time seeing it.
Well, I thought it was, taking into consideration the cultural impact of the first movie. I still feel like this one is equally as good, if not better, than the original Top Gun film. Like, it was genuinely as good or a better sequel than the original. And so really, really great, super fun movie to watch in that particular setup or in a theater. Absolutely. It's one to go see in a theater. So it was great. Pizza, movie, kick the kids upstairs so that we could, and they watched Luck on Apple TV Plus, which is a great kids movie. If you have Apple TV Plus, check it out. They had fun. We had fun and got to crank a movie. It was a great time.
Bree was into it too. She had some like audible gasps and reactions and was like into the drama, like covered her face at one point. Like,
yeah. She had only just seen the original Top Gun for the first time like weeks ago. So this, she got to see both movies in a short amount of time. And so I was very excited. And I have to plug, I plugged it before. One last thing. Welcome to Wrexham, also on Hulu. If you have Hulu, check it out. Quick version. It's a docuseries. Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, both actors. Everyone knows Ryan Reynolds. Bought a near failing, but almost closed Welsh soccer team out of Wrexham in Wales, the city of Wrexham. And it follows them buying the team and getting the team through their first season. So at this moment in time, we're 6 episodes in to a 15-episode season 1. And the reason I'm mentioning it is because if you have Hulu, you should definitely watch it, not with the kids around, because Ryan Reynolds curses just like Deadpool. But it's really interesting to watch. And I think the parallels of them describing, like, you know, changing economics in this Welsh town, the town starts to decline. They rely heavily on their sports team. The team almost went under. The fans rallied to save the team. This is all in the past, so I'm not really like this. This is not.
This is all real life too.
This is all real. There's just something about it that felt so like just the plight of like the Cleveland fans, or like that the whole middle of the country that's like, but we rally around our sports team, even if this industry moves away or this industry moves away, you know, very blue collar. But these people just love their team and they want what's best for their team. And so it's the combination of a Canadian and an American, you know, actors coming in out of nowhere to buy the team. And are they really doing it for the right reasons? And so it's really cool. And I had so much fun. I've had so much fun watching the series that at one point I was just kind of looking up extra YouTube clips about, you know, Rob and Ryan talking about the team or plugging certain things. There was so much buzz around them buying the team a few years ago that EA actually had Wrexham, who's so bad for so long. They're like, they're not even in a FIFA game. They're at like the bottom of the English, you know, rank. You know, you can promote teams and you can relegate teams or whatever. They're so far down. They're like off the charts in a bad way. But EA put them in the FIFA game.
Oh, cool.
In FIFA 22 and the new FIFA 23. And so I literally went to my local GameStop to find a copy of FIFA with them in it so I could play. and play as Wrexham. And as a total bonus, those games also have like the Columbus Crew and, whatever. And so I think last night we played, Bree and I, well, mostly me for the first bit, we played 4 or 5 hours of FIFA. And the second half of it was just her and I matches back and forth of playing FIFA. It was a ton of fun. Wow. We were playing with teams from all over the world. Speaking of the new TV and surround sound fun setup, we were just using it for FIFA, and we got a couple games in as Wrexham. So it was awesome. So watch the series and then feel motivated to go buy FIFA. And I don't know, maybe I'm an international soccer fan now. So I haven't picked a team officially, but Wrexham's on the list. It's a short list.
I'm getting into F1. You can get into like what do they call real soccer? Like
football.
Yeah, but like Premier League.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Well, Premier League is the top of the top. So, and I think a little credit goes to Ted Lasso because we've watched through that series like 4 times. And I'm like, I think I'm just kind of getting into international soccer now. So I might need a couple teams to root for to figure that out. But MLS is different. So like you can have a favorite US soccer team, but then still root for international teams that you like because they're not going to play each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been awesome.
FIFA is like one of the highest grossing video games of all time. It's just like a massive cult following.
Yeah, there's a whole thing that I'm not going to get into that basically pay to win. There's a feature within the games, a sub feature, my understanding, called Ultimate Team, where you can basically pay money to hopefully unlock key characters to build your ultimate team. And like some countries in the EU have even like taken EA to court as like, that's basically gambling for children. Like you're teaching children to gamble because they're paying. It's kind of like Pokemon cards though. Similarly, like I'm buying this pack of cards. Hopefully that, Charizard is in there that I want, but like kids are doing it with their parents' credit cards with a lot more money. So that's not a thing that I'll get into because I don't care, but this certainly gives me something fun to do and follow. So maybe we'll be able to start talking about international soccer. I'm going to need help though. So if any listeners are this deep into the episode and can hear my plea, I'm going to need some help. Where do I watch it as an American? What teams and leagues should I watch? Obviously Premier League and the Championship League are going to be some of the bigger ones. But even as I was like trying out some of the different like Irish and Scottish teams, some of like their logos and uniforms, I'm like, they're my favorite now. No, they're my favorite now. And so
that's awesome.
It's really cool. So that was a fun little tie-in just from, I think, Ted Lasso and Welcome to Wrexham get credit for that. So
well, keep us posted on your following of that. And yes, we are deep into this episode. We're well past our usual hour, but Kendall, I have to know what's going on with your thumb, or should I call you Little Jack Horner?
I was refilling my pen earlier and something weird happened. And the joke now is that it looks like I have voted in Afghanistan. So that's the one thing. If you get into fountain pens, like you will get it on you sometimes. And I mean, it's going to be there for a couple of days. So
ironically, I was fingerprinted at a police station weeks ago, but it was never documented on the podcast. So there we go.
Interesting.
That's a nice little teaser for next week's episode. Thanks for listening. Do check out artiusman.com, artiusman.com, using promo code the middle at checkout for all of your men's grooming needs, specifically for beards. And the stuff's great, smells great. The candles are great too. I've got 2 on my desk right now. This has been fun catching up with you guys. Like we said at the top of the episode, please reach out. We would love to hear your thoughts, questions, ideas for topics we should cover. And what are your thoughts on saying bless you to someone in a stall just a few doors down? Bye.